certainly there was a lot of emotion that was built into this video. But the parts that stood out to me were the portions about the commentary about punishment via isolation and sort of the pleasure that many get being part of a public execution. I kind of started thinking about like the guillotine in France and punishment that way. And I also thought that even though this wasn't mentioned more, it seemed like there was some threads about the criminal justice system and rethinking incarceration. And I appreciated that, especially the push for laws to be more nuanced and understanding. And I think the reveal at the end was very shocking, which I think it was designed to be. But I also thought it was really illuminating because by the end of this video, I realized that it's not just a video that's about cancel culture, but rather like a commentary about the impact of misinformation and those who spread misinformation and folks who deliberately try to incite violence. I think there was a lot of emphasis on intention versus impact, especially for those who are trying to be canceled or those who have been canceled. And I think it's also very much about the dangers of what happens when free speech is conflated or not even conflated, but when free speech is utilized to spread hate speech or misinformation. And I think it also touched on this idea of the importance of whose voices are weighed in the public consciousness and how that sort of scale is designed.
Full documentary, you can see the sort of the real world implication that came out from internet comments, which I think a lot of people are naive about. But I thought that the piece really, if you're very terminally online and you're aware of about online culture, I thought the piece had a really great grasp of it and sort of the sort of content machine, the outrage machine that is sort of self-eating. It'll destroy everyone that it has raised up, and people can get canceled for any types of things, regardless of how you feel about the phrasing or whether or not you think people are properly canceled or not canceled. Really, I don't necessarily think that was the point of the documentary, but rather I think it was a reflection of sort of internet culture, what animates people on the internet, and how that animus ends up spilling into real life and having people having to deal with things in real life. Marley, if I'm correct, had experienced a lot of harassment and a lot of an idea that she might be in danger in real life, and that this might find its way from the internet to her actual doorstep, which is things that happen to people quite often. So I think the piece was a good reflection of internet culture and sort of an interesting examination of how society has been constructed in a world in which you're trying to theoretically cancel people for things that they said and rather than things they've done, and sort of the implications of perception and reality and what public opinion can do and within that context. So I thought the piece was an intelligent sort of a deconstruction of that, and I thought there was a sort of satire and super serious feel to it that I thought worked well for the overall mood and theme of the piece.
I felt like I was following along as if it were in real time, wondering what was going to happen next. The clips of the various famous people who have been canceled in one way or another was well compiled. It was eerie to see the one scene where the video had to be stopped because of what was happening in the background. The film was well edited and the pace was great. Finally, the ending was intriguing and surprising.
Looking at and picking apart the cancel culture, which has become such a big topic and buzzword over the last couple of years, and what are the consequences of being so easily canceled. How far does holding somebody accountable really go, and how necessary is it, and are the consequences worth it or justifiable with the crime that was committed. So I think this is a really interesting approach to that, and trying to get yourself canceled. How easy or difficult is it? And the results of this were really fascinating as well. That it actually resulted in police involvement, which I don't think normally happens. Normally, it's just like a social cancellation. Oh my goodness. And normally just a social cancellation online, but when there's actual legal stuff now happening, I feel like that's a whole nother level. It's like she girl bossed a little bit too close to the sun. But wow, yeah, really fascinating to see. And I appreciated the honesty of the behind the scenes of, like, we didn't even think that we were going to continue this. We kind of stopped filming when certain things were happening. So
I think that cancel culture 100% is something very, very real and very, very prevalent in society these days. And I think it is something that most people have a very familiar, maybe not like intimate knowledge of. Like, I don't think most people in, their day-to-day lives would ever expect to get canceled. But it's definitely something that I think most people have a a familiarity with. And so I thought this film was really, really, really fascinating, not only from this concept and idea of trying to understand what it feels like to be that person, to be canceled, but also to think of an experiment, to take all the steps to go through the whole procedure and the whole video and really truly commit to it and, you know, taking it to that place to truly understand what it feels like to be that person, not just from a analytical, I want to understand cancel culture stance, but from a personal place of I want to experience this so I can talk about it. And so I thought that the way that they kind of broke it down and looked at it from multiple angles was really, really fascinating.
Being cancelled, what it means to being cancelled, and this word that is so popular right now. It's been so popular in the past 4 or 5 years. It didn't exist until 10 years ago, and nowadays everyone can get cancelled. It's like a witch hunt, basically, where whatever you do, you're never sure you're doing the right thing. You're never sure you can please anyone. As soon as you piss off somebody, or as soon as somebody tells a lie on you that's not double checked, then boom, everything can vanish and disappear, and you can be cancelled from society. I think it was very interesting, especially how the whole film is made. The editing is very powerful. It really keeps things very exciting.
I think there's a general misconception of what is a forgiving society, and whoever feels like they have to walk on eggshells may not understand that freedom of speech doesn't mean you are allowed to say offensive things freely and disrespect others. It's just maybe not the best time to be doing social experiments. Society might be in a very specific point of sensitivity that it is just rub some people the wrong way. It is a creative experiment. I can see that, and it was definitely triggering. So I don't know if that was the intention, but it was definitely interesting to watch.